Welcome to Fusion 5 Radio with your host, Fusion 5 CEO, Rainee Busby.
Welcome back to Fusion 5 Radio. I'm your host, Rainee Busby, here talking with Mark Dildine, and we are beginning the educational segment of our program. So we are going to be talking about how you get what you want out of your life. And that can encase a lot of things. We're going to be focusing on the importance of planning, goal setting, and rocks. So I'm going to tell you what rocks are, and we got a cute little story around that. So to get started, here's a really good exercise I recommend you do. I've known like dream coaches who do this, and it helps you to kind of start to get an idea of what's important to you. And so get yourself a couple pieces of paper, and I want you to make 3 lists, 3 columns. And I want you to put at the top of the first column what you want to do. Are there things in your life you want to do that you haven't done yet? And then what you want to be. I want to be a great father, an engaging sister, a loving whatever. So you can come up with all these interesting things. So what do you want to be? And then what do you want to have? And have doesn't necessarily mean physical things. Have a peaceful, rewarding life. Have a great retirement, that you're financially stable, whatever that is. So 3 columns. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? And what do you want to have? So think big. Sky's the limit. And then we're going to start thinking about some timetables. So when we start talking about planning, we need to break it down into pieces. And so I tell you, sometimes if you want, you can look at 20 years down the road or maybe 10 years down the road. But once we pick that time frame that we want to work with, we need to break it down into smaller pieces, and that's how we get where we're heading. So if we pick 10 years as our time frame, then we need to say, okay, what do we look like in 5 years? Or what do we look like in 3 years? Because we have to meet that 3-year picture of what we look like in order to know we're on track for our 5 or 10 years, right? Does that make sense? And then when we think about our 3-year plan, we have to think, okay, what do we need to get done this next year to move us forward towards that 3-year plan? So that's what I talk about, the importance of planning, really understanding timetables. So work yourself backwards. Now this can work with in your personal life, so you can do it with your family, spouses. Start thinking about things like where are we going to be living in 10 years? What kind of house are we going to be in? Are we going to sell the house we have? Are we going to looking at a new house? What kind of car are we going to be driving? Are we going to be nearing retirement? What does retirement look like? Are we financially set and not have to worry about it? Are we doing things rewarding in our lives that able to give back? And you can also look at it from a business perspective. So, how many people are working in our business? How many employees do we have? How many locations? What are the types of services we offer? What's our financials? Which I mean by that is how much money are we making? How many sales, and then how much profit, which is basically what's left over after you pay for all your employees and all your materials and what have you. So let's start talking about creating the plan. This is the first big piece. And so what I want you to do is think about a 10-year target. As I mentioned, you can do 5 years if you're more comfortable with 5 years. I like 10 years. So think about, in a couple sentences, what you want your life to be like, or what you want your business to be like. So what we're doing is we're defining that target. This is what we're going to aim for as we're working through all of our plans. So, for example, the business, like I said, number of employees, amount of revenue, and then what will you be doing, right? What organizations will you be involved in? Maybe you're going to start, being more involved in community service, or maybe you want to do some animal rescue, volunteer work. There's all kinds of neat stuff to do. So here's a couple examples. So here's a personal 10-year target. I thought examples might help you to understand it a little better. And so for a personal one, I could write down, my retirement will be started with clearly defined activities and organizations that I'm going to be involved with. So I'm going to pick a couple nonprofit. I might help educate, maybe teach at the local community college. We'll probably be living in Texas, enjoying them grandbabies, because we were talking about grandbabies. And then we're going to travel. So we're going to take, one big trip a year, and then maybe take little weekend jaunts once a month. So that's what I think my 10-year personal life might look like. And then from a business perspective, I can say, well, in 10 years, wow, I bet we have like 300 great employees, very satisfied customers, revenue, which is our sales, has grown steadily, and there's still lots of future growth that's projected. Our business is using the EOS operating model, right? So that's going to help us to sustain and be able to achieve what we're looking for. And that'll also make us we'll be able to get a higher price for our business if we decide to sell it. Or maybe we open it up and allow the employees to purchase the business. So a lot of companies are going to employee stock purchase. So employees are able to purchase shares over time. And at some point, the business owner sells it to the employees. And that's very rewarding, and that's a very exciting thing to do. So we go from 10 years. Let's start talking about that 3-year picture. And when I say a picture, I want you to visualize what it looks like in 3 years. So kind of close your eyes and paint that picture and start to kind of put down some bullet points. So think about 10 to 15 bullet points. We're looking at that 3-year target. So here's some examples of personal and business as well. So personal, 3 years. Okay, I like to say, well, we have our retirement financial planning in place. We created that bucket list, right? So we've already outlined what we want to do and when we want to do it. So we have them all prioritized. Our children are adults, so they're already starting to make plans for future families. That's important because we have those grandbabies, right? So you kind of be nudging them a little bit. We sold our old home where we raised our children, and now we're living in a much smaller house, so it's a lot easier to take care of, and it's where we want to retire going forward. So that's kind of what it looks like in 3 years personal. And then business, I say, well, our sales are about 1.5 million right now. We're consistently making a 30% profit. We have 100 highly engaged, very, very happy employees, which is important as well. That helps us to make such a big difference, not only with our clients, but also to make a difference for our employees. They like working with other great people. And then our customers love working with us. We've been using the entrepreneurial operating system for 3 years now, and everyone embraces it. And we've created an employee purchase program so our employees can now start contributing to the fund if they want to decide to purchase it in the future. So now we're going to take that next step, and we're going to go down to this 1-year plan. Now I want you to think about, what do I need to finish this next year to help me get towards that 3-year picture I just painted? So, create about 5 to 7 high-level goals. And when you create your goals, I want you to create SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So I'm going to explain that to you, and it's really just a great way to write out your goals so you make sure you don't miss anything. So specific means that I know exactly what we need to do and who's going to be doing it. So I'm going to set up an employee stock purchase plan. So Rainee is responsible, and she's going to have it done by this date. And so we're looking at that 1 year. So you can say, well, she's not going to start it until halfway through the year. So you can play with that a little bit. Measurable. How do we know it's complete? How do we know we're successful when we got there? When we've got all the employees signed up in the program, whatever that is. And then attainable. Is it really possible to do it? So you want to make sure your goal isn't so far stretching. You're like, I can never do that. I don't, Superman couldn't do that. And then realistic means that, does it align to what we're trying to do? Does it make sense? And then time bound is this, we just need to have a date of when it's going to be completed by. So those are your SMART goals. You usually think about, you're going to have 3 1-year plans that are going to help you get to that 3-year picture that we talked about. Some examples in a personal, I'm going to identify the places that I want to live. So maybe we have 5 or 6 places that we're going to start visiting to confirm that that's where we're going. Our bucket list is already started. We're going to prepare the house for sale. We're going to be doing any upgrades, remodels, maybe some market analysis. So that would be an example of our 1-year personal plan. On a business, we're going to hire 30 new and great employees this year. We're going to land 25 new clients. We're going to add 1 additional service. We're going to open a new location, and the revenue is about $500,000 a year, and we're making about $15,000 in our profit. And then finally, rocks. So what are rocks? So let me tell you a cute little story. So, a professor has a glass jar, and they have rocks, pebbles, sand, and water. You may have heard this before. And so what happens is that if you take and you put the rocks and then you put, or if you put the sand and pebbles and water in first, you can't fit the rocks. So we always tell you identify the rocks first, put them in so that we can, if you put your rocks in first, then you can add the pebbles, and then you can add the sand, then you can add the water, and it all works out perfectly. So we always start with those rocks first, and that's really what we're talking about. I recommend you create 5 to 7. They need to be completed within 90 days. So you see how we've broken the 1-year plan. In order to get to that, we need to create 90-day rocks. You want to apply the SMART criteria that we talked about for our goals, right? And a personal could be, let's plan on a nice landscaping project to get our house ready to sell. We're going to find a financial planner from business. We're going to say, you know what, in this next 90 days, we're going to hire 8 new employees and get 5 new clients, and maybe start to do some research. So those are just some examples of the importance of that 10-year target, 3-year picture, 1-year plan, and your 90-day rocks.
Hello, friends. If you're enjoying our program, Fusion 5 Radio with Rainee Busby, let us know by going to fusion5radio.com and emailing us. Rainee wants to encourage you to write to her with any questions or comments that you may have. That web address again is fusion5radio.com. fusion5radio.com. Rainee wants to help you be more productive in business and ministry by sharing with you each week how to get your life back through simple, practical steps. fusion5radio.com. Write to us. Join us next week. Be blessed.